press release from the, I think,
Was it the state police?
pour sand on them just to celebrate them. And when that is done, it just gives them children. It makes them fertile automatically. That's not the tradition. And, the boys or the guys in that community just decided to twist, the original tradition or culture and try to suit it in their own way.
It's so sad when you see stuff like that happening in 2026 anyway, because you would have thought people would understand better, the workings.
And how will you even celebrate abuse? How will you celebrate such
I don't
culture,
think
raping and...
I don't think it's a celebration of that culture. I think it's more of people with a sinister motive hijacking something that was supposed to be, a lot of different. And, when you see such moves, you start to ask where it emanated from. And, I was asking around from some people because, I come from Delta State and I was trying to ask around. And, there was a number of people who said, no, this is not the tradition from time past. But then over the years, they started to see that, when you're having some moments and you tell, okay, women should stay indoors for this cultural occasion to go by. And then you see some people saw that they could seize that to their advantage. And then it started becoming widespread. And then, the notoriety of it.
So this is not the first year such would...
According to some of those who told me, they said it's not the first time, not like it was large scale like this, but it's not the first time that some people have hijacked that to actually accomplish their own evil motive.
Well, we hope they are brought to book, and of course, the law will definitely take its place. Moving on to page 4, APC risks losing Kwara if Cuba ticket is zoned to North. NILDS DG warns how I defeated Bola Ige in 1999 to get AD's presidential ticket, Olufalaye. Kano government disbursing 7.4 million naira to families of Uromi attack victims. Sanu Nasu urged Tinubu to fast-track renegotiation deal. Says inflation, rising cost of living weighing heavily on workers. Catholic bishops felicitate Muslims on Eid al-Fitr, urge unity, national renewal. NBA felicitate Muslims. Nigeria needs our collective support, APC National Secretary. And that's all on page 5. And we have the Ask My Doctor page, and that's on page 9. I have blood in my urine. How many eggs should I eat daily? This particular question has caused a lot of, has been raised a lot of times, talking of how many eggs should be eaten daily. Well, the answer is on page 9. Difficulty with night driving, sleeping with or without pillow, blockage in my right ear, compression socks during long flights, antibiotics with anti-malarias, and lastly, we have no teeth at 8 months. We have a doctor answering all those questions. And we have on entertainment, Moabudu unveils new cast for The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives film adaptation. Funke Akindele is behind the scenes top box office in UK, Ireland. From church drums to London stages, the rise of Israel Ogadi. Burna Boy sets new global touring record. And on crime, two repeat offenders. 3 syndicate members arrested as police smash phone theft ring in Ibadan. And that story is on page 15. Unilag denied me admission on age grounds. Then I ended up studying in Nigeria's best varsity, David Fetuga. And talking of Landmark's second overall best graduating student. I see myself contributing to scientific innovation while mentoring young scientists. And that's coming from Mildred Awakesian, chemist and doctoral researcher. And that's on page 19, talking of lifestyle interview. And on Kids and Teens Zone, we have winners emerge from Sigma Cubs National School Quiz Competition. Mom and child, parents' gut feeling could save a child's life, according to experts. And taking some sports stories on the back page of Saturday Tribune on page 30, buses backs Fulham's European push. Southwest State sets for Bademosi Boys Cricket Championship. Okoye opens up on Eagles AFCON heartbreak. Akan coach Adebote Task takes over from Aliyu, calls for unity. Lukman reflects on tough Tottenham clash. Rooney labels South Africa 2010 worst World Cup ever. FIFA announces major rule change in women's football. And lastly, we have Chelsea face protest after escaping point deduction. And that's all we have on Saturday Tribune. Over to you, Victor.
Well, I've got the Nation newspaper right here with me today. And stories hitting me on page 4. Tinubu's security is everyone's responsibility. Maiduguri residents defy fear, turn out in large numbers for Eid prayers. Our brave security guard toted bombs at Unimaid Teaching Hospital gate. We have outrage over alleged sexual assault on female students at Delta Festival on page 6. The state government condemns incident. Police arrest community leader and 5 others. Page 25, no plan to accept foreign deportees. Presidency clarifies UK migration deal, and that's on page 25. We'll continue with more stories on the Nation newspaper when we return from this commercial break.
In today's fast-paced world, staying ahead demands peak performance from our bodies.
Like never before, our bodies need an optimum supply of essential nutrients, and Supermalt supports our daily nutritional needs.
Supermalt has 20 essential vitamins, minerals, and natural extracts for overall health and wellness. One Supermalt a day gives you energy and vitality, improves your mental performance, and supports your immunity.
All right, thank you very much for sticking around with us. So we still have more stories from the front page. Supreme Court affirms judgment ordering iMobile to pay investors $87.5 million. You find more of that on page 6. Back to page 25, military voice drone attack kills terrorist commanders in Northeast. On page 25 as well, we have the story, Ghana, South Africa turn to Dangote refinery amid Middle East war. That's an interesting one. And on page 5, resignation, ministers' aides await consultation with president. Defection terms may determine fate. Okay, now to what we have, inside the pages. We have this one, starting from page 10, talking about governors, local governments, and dilapidated schools. On Weekend Live on page 11, brutal exploits of human traffickers in multi-million euro sex industry. And there's conversations about gangs forcing girls to block menstrual flow with wool, and amongst others, dirty tales of pastors, deities' involvement in messy deals. There's a lot to unpack in there. On page 13, Burna Boy, rich in cities, poor at home. Wonder what that is. Well, you might just want to read up on that on page 13 of the Nation newspaper for today. On page 14, travels of Olympic sprint medalist, torchbearer turned construction site worker. On play, page 16, which goes on to page 17, Vinicius and Madrid seek consistency for Atletico derby. Liverpool's rematch excites PSG coach. Sanchez offered to replace Guardiola at Manchester City. Pride at stake as Arsenal Man City clash in Carabao Cup final. Again, credits company's evolution for Bayern's treble bid. Valverde to leave Bilbao at season's end. We have Onyani keen on making Audia NEM FC football empire. Basi urges Nigerians to embrace maintenance culture at Sportsville Award. Back to form, PSG not yet out of sight in Ligue 1. Liverpool suffer Salah blowing Champions League chase. Madrid sweat on Bellingham for Atletico Madrid derby. Manchester United want to renegotiate with Barcelona over Rashford. Okay, flipping on to what we have, later on the page 25. First Lady advocates compassion and love at London Church service. And we have Presidency defends Tinubu's UK visit, says a trip targeted investment and jobs. And of course, we have this one on page 26. Federal government steps up $20 billion Nigeria-Europe gas pipeline talks. And after bluffing way into job, Nigerian dietitian fired in UK for ignorance. That's on page 27, actually. Police nabbed 2 robbers with toy gun in Ondo. We have PSC, visit to Nisabe. Just youth enrollment in police first. Your speaker hails Muslims over spiritual commitment, compassion during Ramadan. And we have Governing Council of Federal Polytechnic in Oyo restates commitment to transparency and fairness. On page 29, soldier who rejected 50 million naira to arrest notorious Abia kidnapper gets medical assistance. Police arrest killers of automobile engineer in Imo, buried in shallow grave after collecting 7 million naira ransom. Family alleged intimidation by hoodlums, seeks police and government protection. And yes, Osimhen receives blessings from Igalo's mother during Lagos visit as Onyeka is set to return against Swansea. All right, that's as much as we can take on the newspaper review segment. And yes, we are traveling quickly. Yes, Odidere is our port of call. Don't go anywhere.
Iwo has over 30 ancient and powerful kings, all under the Oluwo of Iwo land. His Royal Majesty Oba Abdulrasheed Akanbi, as the only consenting authority and first-class paramount ruler in an area of 245 kilometers square and a population of 191,348, going by the 2006 Nigerian National Census figures. Tradition relates that Adekola Telu, son of the 16th Ooni of Ife, Luwo Gbagida, who migrated from Oba Lawrence compound in Ile-Ife after the death of his mother. These accounts suggested that Akiola Telu, as the account narrated, was truly a son of Luwo. The reason for this was because Luwo was a female king, which suggested that Akiola Telu was not from a royal family. It was therefore after consulting Ifa Oreko was given beaded crown by his mother and a mandate by Ifa Oreko to settle wherever he sees much parrots Odidere. If you have been a patriotic citizen of Iwo, the name Odidere to you will be just like a slang. The board is well connected to the history of how Iwo was founded, and since the creation of Iwo, Odidere has been the symbol and icon of Iwo land. Odidere is the iconic symbol of Iwo city because of its importance in the creation of Iwo. It is very impossible to talk about the creation of Iwo without mentioning Odidere. Iwo anthem, which could also be referred to Odidere anthem, is one of the symbols of Iwo people. Therefore, you can't be from this beautiful land and don't know the anthem.
It was a directive from their central parents that we move westward and stay where we can discover a bird talking like human being until we get to
Thank you very much for staying with us. Yes. Tuberculosis Day, that's March 24, and we want to talk briefly about it too, before looking at a broader perspective, and that's going to be a lot of activities that will be happening on Tuesday, which is March 24, 2026. World Tuberculosis Day is celebrated yearly, and this year, the theme for this year is Yes, We Can End TB. It would also be good to note that, talking of statistics, Nigeria is actually ranked number 1 in Africa in terms of tuberculosis, the disease. But to do justice, I won't be the one to talk much of this particular conversation this morning. We have the Oyo State Technical Officer, Damien Foundation, Modupe Okwes. So it's good to have you.
Very good to be here as well. Thank you for the privilege and thank you for the opportunity of having me here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Let's look at tuberculosis.
Yeah.
What exactly is tuberculosis? You know, sometimes Yorubas will say ikofe,
Yes.
you know, but it feels like a lot of people do not really understand it in depth. You know, people just feel when they cough, it's just a regular, they just go to a pharmacy to pick up. What exactly is tuberculosis?
Okay. I want to really thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. Tuberculosis is a disease that is caused by a bacterium that we call Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And it is a disease that is airborne. If anybody that has this Mycobacterium tuberculosis, if they sneeze, if that individual sneezes, coughs, or talks into the air, tuberculosis bacterium is spread in the air droplets, and if there is anyone that is around that inhales that air, that person is going to be infected with tuberculosis. Now, tuberculosis do not just present, it's not an acute disease that just presents immediately with the signs and symptoms, and then you just come down with tuberculosis. It takes a long time. That's why treating and diagnosis is quite difficult now, because it takes a long time. And so because the signs and symptoms, coughing, and which I'm still going to
Yes, before we go into the signs and symptoms, the treatment, what exactly causes tuberculosis?
Okay, tuberculosis, like I said, is caused by a bacterium that is called Mycobacterium tuberculosis.
I want you to break it down for us all to understand.
It's,
I mean, for those who are not in the
how
medical
you know how it works,
field, yes.
so that people would understand.
okay, so
Before you answer that, so for us, just to break it down for
Yeah.
us, is it through food? Is it
Okay.
through exposure to a particular atmosphere? Let us just understand the real cause of tuberculosis.
okay, so the real cause of tuberculosis is it's a bacterium that causes it in the air. All right, it's spread through the air, it's transmitted through the air, not through food, not through handshakes. No, it is airborne. That's why it is kind of complicated. It's airborne and it is highly infectious. So the thing is, if there is anyone, if we find ourselves in anywhere that is overcrowded, where there is lack of ventilation, in areas where there are, in slummy areas, where there is poor ventilation and all that, and the organism thrives in the air. So when we find ourselves in such enclosures of poor ventilation, in fact, it can stay in vacuums of what do you call it now? This air conditions and all that. So when we take the air that has TB, now TB establishes in the lungs, basically. Most times, we have disseminated TB that it can establish in other organs of the body. We can have TB in the brain, we can have TB in the spine, we can have TB in every other organs of the body. But basically, we have what we call pulmonary TB. It establishes itself in the lungs. So what happens is that, depending on the immune system of the individual, the person is having these antibiotics. Naturally, God has given us these antibiotics that fight diseases. We don't always have to come down with the disease. But depending on that state of the immune system, the person can come down with the disease or have the bacterium still lying, sleeping. They call it dormant. It's dormant TB. It's latent, it's there. It has not started causing any form of havoc. So whichever way, the fight right now is whether latent or active TB. We want to fight it. That's the key. We want people to come out when you see any signs and symptoms that we would be mentioning. Once you see these signs and symptoms, run to the nearest health facility, get tested.
All right. Now you've mentioned that it thrives very well in confined spaces across the vents.
Yes.
Let us get to know the signs and symptoms that we must, to help with early detection.
So the WHO has helped to, group these signs and symptoms in a simplified way that even the layman can understand. Number one, if you have a cough that is 2 weeks or more, the duration of that cough is, getting longer than 2 weeks.
Consistently.
Yes, consistently. You have, taken drugs. You have gone to the patent medicine vendor where you've sought health, and you have not been relieved of that cough. That cough is not normal. We also have fever, consistent fever, coming down with fever. Fever is aragbigono. You're coming down with consistent fever. You have treated malaria. You have taken paracetamol, and it is still persistent. You need to look out of that. Then unexplainable weight loss. I'm not talking about weight loss as a result of dieting or fasting, but you cannot explain the reason why you are losing weight. Is a pointer, is a signal. And then finally, we have what we call drenching night sweats.
What does that mean?
Drenching, it's in the sense that, at night, the individual will be sweating excessively, soaking night sweats. So these 4 cardinal signs and symptoms of TB, if you see one or any of these 4 signs and symptoms of TB, please go get tested.
All right. You've said, you have mentioned the signs and symptoms. We know it thrives a lot in confined spaces. Let's know, can it be prevented?
TB is prevented. In fact, it's much more better to prevent than to start to cure.
How?
There are lots of ways that we can prevent the disease. One of it, because one killer is unawareness, ignorance. So one of the ways, and that is why we are collaborating with media, we are collaborating with the community to create awareness, to sensitize the community about the signs and symptoms of TB. So one preventable measure is creating awareness. Number 2 is early testing. Once people are tested, are screened. Now, screening, we don't actually wait for you to come down with the disease. This time around, we have several tools that, and of course, with the 4 cardinal signs and symptoms of TB, you're already screening yourself, So screening, when you check those signs and symptoms, if they are there, come out for early testing. That is how one of the ways we prevent the disease, early testing. Then once we test and we are able to identify a case, that case, we would do what we call contact tracing. It's also one preventive measure. So we go to the, close contacts and maybe whatever contacts, close or work contacts of that individual. We screen them for TB. If there is anyone that we realize that has the disease, we start treatment immediately because it can't continue transmission. But for those that are not having the disease, we've not been able to establish the disease, we'll give them what we call TB preventive therapy. So it's just different regimens at short durations that you can take, and then what it does is that it kills every form of dormant TB that will be lying as a result of the exposure to that index case. So these are measures that we use to prevent TB. We also try as much as possible to avoid overcrowding. We try as much as possible to ensure ventilations around where we are. When you cough, you try to cover your mouth when you are coughing, and these are some measures that we can use to prevent TB.
Do we have a particular season where TB thrives?
Okay, well, let me say that TB thrives in many of the seasons, okay? But we have seen statistically that there's been a rise during the dry season because, you know, anyone that has TB, since it's airborne, if you spit around the surrounding, it is carried in the air. So at that time of the season, dry seasons, usually, it's not as if all seasons we do not see TB cases, but statistically we have seen that there is a rise during the dry seasons. Yes, because of that period, it's easy for things to evaporate. It's easy for evaporation into the air.
Okay. Let's look at this year's theme. It says, yes, we can end TB. For a country where, before I actually ask that question, we have a commercial break and we'll be right back. Please stay with us.
When malaria knocks you down, you can be sure parasites are having a party in your system.
Welcome to our new kingdom, guys!
Comel, an effective weapon against malaria. Attacking the parasite army directly to give you express relief and get you back on your feet effectively. Comel on. Malaria gone.
Thank you very much for staying with us. We are still talking about tuberculosis, or awareness of World Tuberculosis Day, talking of, the day ahead before it's actually March 24. And before we went on that break, I was asking, if the theme of this year is yes, we can end TB. Looking at the statistics we have before us, Nigeria is ranked number 1 in Africa
yes.
of, cases of TB, and number 6 globally. How can we end tuberculosis in Nigeria? What has this fight been for before now? What has it been like, creating awareness, trying to end this, fighting, against the spread of tuberculosis?
Okay, so I must say that a lot has been done, and this is what people should be aware of. The federal government and the state government, in collaboration with funding agencies like Global Fund and implementing partners, they have done quite a lot of things. Before now, let me talk about the regimen. The regimen for TB, that's the drug now. Used to be, injectables, such that, you can imagine taking injections, not 1 or 2, maybe 3, in a day for 18 months, every day, injectables. But with, the federal government and then the implementing partners, a lot has been done as regards the regimen. So you can take TB drug. If it has been established to have, if you have been established to have TB, you can take TB drug. It's now in pills. The pill burden has also been reduced. The duration of taking the drug is 6 months and at most 12 months, depending on where the disease is established. But if it's pulmonary TB, 6 months consistent use of the drug, you are cured.
Do you quarantine them at that point? Are they advised to be quarantined?
So there's a phase. The drug is divided into 2 phases. We have the intensive phase and the continuation phase. At the intensive phase of 2 months, you don't need to, there's no quarantine, all right? Once you start using your drug, and at that intensive phase, it is expected that the burden of the bacteria is reduced drastically to the barest minimum where it cannot be transmitted. So there is no need to quarantine. As long as you take your drug, you are fine. So that's it.
Well, before you move on, now you said as long as you take your drug, you're fine without being quarantined. Now, does it mean others around you, when you start taking that medication, people around you are not, they cannot be infected? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, so for you to have had the disease, and depending on the time, the duration, that's why we always target household contacts. household contacts are because of the exposure, they would have been infected with the disease. They might not have started showing signs and symptoms as the index case, but they would have been infected with the disease. So with the bacteria, infection is different from the disease. That you have been exposed. You might have TB, right? Still, yeah, that's that dormant. But so what we usually do is to target those persons around the index case. Okay. So your question again is that
those around, do they get infected when they are using the medication?
When they already have the tobacco, they already have the organism. Okay. It's not about that you have started. They already have. So they also have to be treated.
Okay.
Do you understand me?
Medication, the index case is using.
It's a different medication, which is depending on, that's why I said, if we are able to rule out that they don't have TB as well, established as a disease, we now give them what we call TB preventive therapy. Okay. TB preventive therapy will kill any form of dormant TB that they have been exposed to because of living with the case.
All right. We'll speak about communities right after this break. Thank you very much for sticking around with us. We're still looking ahead of the World Tuberculosis Day, and we are still very much in conversation with the Oyo State Technical Officer at the Damien Foundation and the person of Mudupe Okweso. Well, now let's talk about communities. When you were mentioning the index and all of that, I started to think of the possibilities of others around. What have they noticed? How to deal with what they have noticed? And the awareness, because I know we are heavy on awareness presently and all that, but what can communities do better? What have they been doing? What should they correct? What are the myths that they need to understand and then, leave to one side?
All right. Communities have a lot to do. Like the theme of this year's World TB Day is, yes, we can end TB, even though it is being led by the Federal Ministry of Health, but it is being powered by communities. How? It is saddled with communities to encourage testing. Encourage it as much as possible in your own community. If we have a lot of engagement with patent medicine vendors, people that sell drugs,
Over the counter.
Yes. So there's a lot of engagement with them. If you find anybody coming to your shop that is having these signs and symptoms, quickly we have a hub. You refer them to a hub where they can be tested. We have religious bodies. We are beginning to have a lot of engagement with religious bodies, the mosque, the churches. Encourage testing. If you see people with these signs and symptoms do not change your language, change your attitude, encourage them to get tested, get collaboration. In the LGA level, we have access, even in the communities, we have portable digital X-ray machines now that have been deployed to communities. You don't even have to walk to an health facility. Just call the TB local government supervisor. We have linkage coordinators, we have riders in the community. They would come and get your community tested. We want to also employ them to end stigmatization. This is one menace that we are fighting that is not making the disease to be eradicated. Stigmatization. Once people have declared that, of course, they have the disease, we start seeing people, running away from them. Fine, we know that we don't
just
want
you
to.
said, it is airborne.
It is airborne, but we should support their treatment.
Can we support them
we can
going through that treatment?
Yes, we should encourage them. We can follow up on them. Okay, how often have they been using the drug? They should continue using the drug, because treatment adherence is very, very, very important. Stopping the drug can lead to resistance. It can lead to transmission. So we can create an enabling environment for them, to encourage them to continue to take their drugs and follow them up to finish treatment. We have people that do this, in the community, that have taken it upon themselves. Traditional leaders, leaders in the community, religious leaders, they know that they have, TB cases, and they just take it upon themselves to follow these, cases up and ensure those that are defaulting, they run away. We see them going to them to encourage them to take their drugs and all that. These are things that communities can do for us to fight TB.
All right, thank you very much. As we wind down, I want you to speak to, if you say we are eliminating tuberculosis, what's the hope for Nigeria? Looking at how far we have come, what's the hope for us currently in Nigeria in eradicating, especially looking at us, the statistics, we are top of the ladder in countries, that record tuberculosis every year. What's the hope for us in Nigeria, and what would you have to say to Nigerians as we celebrate ahead of World Tuberculosis Day?
Okay, so I would like to say that TB is curable. That's the first message of hope that we should have. As long as we know that TB is curable, we should go get tested. And then testing is free. The drug is free.
Where is it free?
Everywhere the treatment and the diagnosis is accessible.
So if I want to get tested, where are those facilities I can walk into to say I want to get tested and I will be treated freely?
So we have engagement in every local government, as low as the local government settings. We have facilities, public facilities, PHCs, primary healthcare, PHCs, facilities, public facilities, even private facilities now have been co-opted. So if you walk in there, you say you want to get tested, they have linkages to the, we call them TB local government supervisors, and some other workers that work in the community as TB workers. They put a call across to them. It's just for you to drop your sample. The sample is sputum, just 2 mils of sputum. You don't have to take it to the lab yourself. We have people paid to take them to the lab and bring the results back. Right. It's that simple.
All right, thank you very much for helping us to understand that it is preventable, it can be treated, and it is indeed very curable. Yes, so I've been in conversation with Modupe Okweso, who is the Oyo State Technical Officer of the Damien Foundation. So we've been having the conversation ahead of the World Tuberculosis Day. We say a big thank you on behalf of the entire production crew.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll still have more to actually serve you on Saturday Special this morning. Don't go anywhere. Keep it locked on right here.
renting, so as to give una small wisdom. Shout my teeth fresh now, but you know, I beg no be so. Before una go talk, say our smile no reach. Make una think I'm twice so. Ever heard of Colgate, the #1 oral care brand in the world?
Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection unlocks 24 hours cavity defense. The formula boosts with calcium for lifelong smiles.
Mom, it's a time to brush. No more cover mouth. Because we Colgate, that's who do yaga with your smile.
Colgate for 24 hours maximum cavity protection.
All right, thank you very much for staying with us. Yes, it's another segment, and this morning we will be talking security. We saw what happened on Monday in Maiduguri, the triple bombings that happened. We saw the president's reaction, and of course, during the course of the week, we also got reactions from President Trump, talking about whether the president should be out of the country at a time in Nigeria where we are facing so much insecurity, and he's on a state visit in the United Kingdom. So many reactions from other stakeholders from different corners to do justice to this particular conversation this morning. And of course, we will be touching on different reactions, and of course what is expected of the state governor in Maiduguri, and of course looking at other states that we've been having that has been a high point of this insecurity. To do justice to this conversation this morning, we have a security scholar, Professor Olawale Albert. Prof, it's good to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Prof, for honoring and gracing our seat this morning. Straight up to Maiduguri, we saw what happened. And of course, even in the papers this morning, we have 5 suspected bombers entered Maiduguri, 2 still at large, and that's coming from Governor Zulum. What exactly, or let me start with, how can this end? Because it's a recurring conversation. It's a recurring incident. We are tired of talking about this bomb blast. We are tired of recording so many people dead. How can we really tackle this head on?
Well, it is quite unfortunate that we are where we are. Several mistakes were made when Boko Haram crisis started. Things that the government ought to have done that were not done. I could remember that shortly after the crisis started, I was on a number of international television channels, actually debating how we are approaching the problem, because that problem ought to have been precisely dealt with from the beginning. When the Boko Haram crisis started, the insurgents they named 5 conditions that have to be met. These conditions were not met. President Obasanjo went to hold a meeting with them. He went back to the government with their minimum conditions for peace. These were not done. We realized at the beginning of the crisis that a full-blown military approach to the problem probably will not work. There was a need to have non-kinetic approaches that, these were ignored. I was later commissioned by an African institution to do a policy brief, and in that policy brief, we recommended things that ought to have been done that time. Our recommendations were ignored. Before Goodluck Jonathan left office, he brought in mercenaries, military contractors to help us in dealing with the problem, and to a very large extent, the problems were well managed until 2015 when President Buhari came in and he said Nigeria will not use military contractors. But now we are begging the international community to help us. I was with Governor Zulum about 4 months ago. We met, and he asked me and the others to be taken around Maiduguri we realized that the piecemeal approach to counterterrorism will not work. You see, in counterterrorism, all you need to do is to stamp out the problem. But if you are dealing with the problem piecemeal, as we are doing in Nigeria, the insurgents will have more oxygen, they will get more strength, and that is what we're witnessing. Apart from the fact that we have mismanaged the management of the problems from within, there are some pressures from the Sahel. When you say Sahel, you are referring to countries from Mauritania across, the West African sub-region up to Djibouti. So different terrorist groups across the globe are coming there to establish their bases. You have the Islamic states in the Greater Sahara, you have GNIM, you have ISWAP. All of these groups have established networks across that corridor. And these different bodies that have established their stations, they got support in the past from IC. They got support in the past from Al-Qaeda. Now, Al-Qaeda is broke. IC is broke. So it is these people in the West African sub-region now that are making money. So if anybody is kidnapped in Nigeria and 200 million is taken from you, the 200 million will not be used in Nigeria. It is channeled to the larger network of terrorism. And so Nigeria is a lucrative environment, and that is why these people are coming all the time to fight here.
So it's like a chain.
It's a chain. It's a chain. And until that chain is cut off, it's difficult for us to manage the problem.
Prof, based on your analysis, which is a very, you broke it down for us very well and understandable. Based on your analysis now, are we going to say our government does not understand this chain?
They understand.
Yes. Please.
They understand. I think the unfortunate thing is that we politicize counterterrorism. And we have been talking about this for more than 10 years. But each time we talk about it, they describe us as, I've forgotten the name they called us when Buhari was in government. They called us, there was a name they were calling us that we talk too much about this thing. You see, counterterrorism is not something you play with. It's like HIV, you don't play with HIV. You have just finished a presentation on tuberculosis. You don't play with tuberculosis. What you do is to deal with the problem, irrespective of who is responsible, what is, But here, for ethnicity's sake, we refuse to deal with problems. For religious sake, we refuse to, and it has become a big crisis for us now. And if you attend meetings, any meeting across the West African sub-region now, you hear all countries talking about Nigeria, because these people come from as far from Mauritania to come and fight in Nigeria. They come from Mali to come and fight, because we have politicized the management of the problems. We have expanded the scale of the problem. When I saw Zulum, I pitied him. There's little Zulum can do, because you keep chasing them around Maduguri. It is more than Maduguri. This thing is more than Maduguri, and I think that is why I was fascinated by the suggestion made by African Union just this past week that the United Nations should intervene in the problems of Nigeria. It's a big shame that a problem that started as far back as 2009, now we're asking for the United Nations to intervene. That is to say we have failed internally.
And I know, remember you mentioned earlier, you made some recommendations, to the past government. But why do you think those recommendations, what were the recommendations, and why do you think they were not adopted?
Well, what were the recommendations? If you Google search my name, Isaac Olale Albert, you see a number of Al Jazeera videos. You see a number of, what do they call it? The other channel, the American one. You see a number of programs we did there. Some of them have been removed now. Now, the initial recommendation we made was that at the initial stage of the crisis, you see, let's start from how Boko Haram started. when Yusuf was killed, Muhammad Yusuf was killed, the misleading impression then was that if you kill Yusuf, there wouldn't be Boko Haram crisis. But that tells you that those managing our security had poor understanding of counter-terrorism. Yeah. Terrorism is a war of idea. It is different from the Niger Delta crisis where people were looking for money. Now, you can kill people pushing an idea. You cannot kill the idea. That was the mistake they made. Now, when they removed Yusuf, Shekau came in, a more difficult person to manage. You remove Shekau, more difficult people came in. So we said at the initial stage, when this thing started, these people gave 5 conditions. 2 of them, rebuild our mosque, release our children and wives. That these were simple things that could be done at the initial stage of the crisis. But then our security people said, no, Dr. Albert, I was a Dr. Albert, said, no, we'll finish them. So they are still finishing them. You see, when you have a problem, the first thing you do is you assess the scale of the problem and you ask yourself, can you manage this problem? If I go to the marketplace with my wife and 200 soldiers, armed soldiers, one of them slapped my wife and I say I want to fight, the question I need to ask myself in security analysis, can I fight 200 armed soldiers? So what you need to do is to look for a handkerchief, clean the face of your wife, say, okay, let's go home. We look for, but Nigeria foolishly walked into problems. That is the first stage. Now, the second stage is when when Yusuf was killed, there were things that ought to have been done immediately. Try those responsible for the killing, do a number of things, we failed to do it. Rather, we created more. So it's like, rather than solving problems, we kept sweeping them under the carpet, and today, we cannot manage this problem internally. Let's stop deceiving ourselves.
Prof, we've seen the presidency's response. We've seen the movement over to Maiduguri again. I don't know.
One of the things that our leaders were suggesting is that the service chiefs should move to Maiduguri. To me, it's a poor understanding of security management. You see, just managing Maiduguri, the commanders there are very, very efficient people. And any of them can be appointed the chief of army staff. Any of them can be appointed the chief of defense staff. So they are competent, they have the competence to manage that place. If you bring the chief of army staff to Maiduguri, if you bring the chief of defense staff to Maiduguri, they are not going to fight the battles. The battles will be fought by those who are responsible. But you will be actually watering down the capacity of those people to fight because, one, the military people have the additional responsibility now of protecting the chief of army staff. They have the additional responsibility of protecting the chief of... So if you were using 100 people to solve problems, now you have to give 20 to protect this additional burden you have created for yourselves. So each time I hear people saying the service chief should be deployed to, are they going to fight the battles? Or are you saying that those managing the operations are not soldiers?
Prof, what does a proactive response really looks like when it comes to counterinsurgency?
You see, a proactive approach to managing the problems in Maiduguri.
I really don't want us to even streamline it to Maiduguri.
No, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
A proactive approach, one, is for us to know that Maiduguri's problem is not a local problem. 2, is for us to know that it's not a Nigerian problem. 3, is to know that it's a Sahelian problem. Because the arms, the foreign fighters, they come from different parts of the Sahel. So you are not managing a local problem. You are not managing a national problem. You are managing a regional problem. And a regional problem requires regional approach. You know, how do you block borders? How do you prevent fighters from coming? I have a paper I'm working on now. How do you prevent what is called technical? You know, this 4x4 Toyota. Because that is the recent research we're doing now. You know, 4x4 Toyota comes in from different parts of North Africa, from whatever, to service these people. They have very strong vehicles they are using in their operations. So if you want to cut off the oxygen. You are cutting off their supplies. You are cutting off their communication. You are cutting off many things. So when I see people abusing Zulum, it goes, what is Zulum going to do? Zulum is not going to prevent those moving from Mauritania. It's not going to prevent those coming from Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso. It's not going to stop those coming from Bamako in Mali. These people are moving. They come to fight. They take a lot of money from Nigeria. They take back to their business. They expand the network of terrorism. And when we talk as if this is a local problem. Now, Nigeria must eat the humble pie of saying, look, we've tried our best. We need support. We need international support. But I think the country is too shy to say we need international support. I think the problems will start getting better managed when we are humble enough to say we need international support. African Union said it, but I don't know what is Nigerian leaders this thing. When Buhari came in, he said it is shameful for you to ask for international support. He drove away the military contractors, and the gains of the past were reversed. And that is how we came here.
Prof, which country do you think is best placed to help us in this battle?
Well, it is not a matter of country. We need a regional approach. Yes, ECOWAS is having problems now, but ECOWAS, we need an ECOWAS intervention. Nigeria actually...
is ECOWAS strong enough? ECOWAS is still strong enough?
Yes, if ECOWAS is not strong enough, ECOWAS has wider networks than us. I'm just back from an ECOWAS meeting. I came back yesterday. ECOWAS has, Nigeria as a country, we have bilateral relations with different countries. But what is more important in fighting terrorism is multilateralism. It is not just, Niger helping you. It's not a matter of Chad helping you. But it's a matter of bigger formation, security, community helping you. So ECOWAS can help us. Now, ECOWAS is linked up with European Union. ECOWAS is linked up with bigger global bodies. So if ECOWAS, is looking for support for Nigeria, ECOWAS will actually tap into its own network and bring in systems that will help us, most especially in intelligence gathering. Intelligence gathering, we have several security agencies here that collect intelligence, but they can never be as good as the global intelligence networks. This telephone, that I'm having this telephone here, makes some people in different parts of the world to know that Professor Alba is in this station. They know the clothes I'm wearing. They know my DNA as a result of many things that when I was doing blood tests, whatever, in Nigeria innocently, some of these things, so they know we are here. Therefore, when the terrorists that we are fighting are meeting, some people know that they are meeting. What they are discussing, they know. They know what they are discussing. And that is why sometimes you have these feelers from the international community or alerts that Nigeria should be careful so time, this hotel should be so careful so time. But each time we get these alerts, what our leaders do is to abuse those actually providing those. So we need the support of the international community. Let us stop pretending that we have the capacity to deal with it. We don't have the capacity to deal with this problem. Because it is not that we don't have the capacity to fight our enemies, but that our enemies have strong international supporters. So we're not just fighting, these ragtag people. We are fighting those who do not want Nigeria to be fine.
Yes, and Prof, now when we talk about our enemies have strong international support.
Yes.
We will, as much as we are fighting those outside the country, we will also have to fight those within the country.
Yes.
And of course, there are different ways, various steps we need to take to make sure we are blocking the ones in the country,
yes,
from receiving information,
yes,
from sending things out, and
yes,
also receiving. Now,
yes,
how do we go about that? Especially when we are talking about international collaboration. How do we block the ones in the house?
To me, I would say I've attended many meetings in Abuja where I counter those saying we don't have sufficient intelligence. for fighting our enemies. Our intelligence gathering institutions in Nigeria are very, very efficient. They are very, very efficient. You are talking about DSS, NIA, DIA, all these people. They are very, very efficient. But you see, in management of intelligence, which is collected by the state and which is closed, and early warning system, which is open and collected by civilians, you see, they will give you results only if there is commitment to using the information. If I tell you now that in the next few minutes, some people will be attacking this place, and you ask me who is the person, and I mention the name, you say, oh, Professor Albert is trying to demonize my sister. He's trying to demonize. They will come here and attack you. This is what is happening to Nigeria. Our intelligence gathering institutions, they gather very credible information about the local context, as you said. We have good information about local context. But the question is, are we really ready to use the information for actually preventing these people from doing what they are doing? I mean, look at, since when we've been talking about funding of terrorism in Nigeria. We've been talking about this thing for a very long time. People fund terrorism in Nigeria, but you don't find anybody mentioning anybody's name. So if you have the information and you are not ready to use the information to solve your problems, then it's your problem.
Before we talk about those funding terrorism in Nigeria, because we've had state governors come out to say that we know them.
Thank you so much.
They are in government. But why has it been difficult to name them?
What you are mentioning is one of the academic debates we've been having. In fact, we have over 200 statements of people saying we know them. Starting with good Lord Jonathan, who said, I have them in my government. Now, to me, when a political leader is saying we know them, and you are not naming them, and you are not interdicting them, you are not doing anything about them, it shows that you are not fit to be a leader. Some governors in the Northwest said, we even know their houses. We know their parents. You know, one governor said, we know where they are now. Then the question is, why are you not doing something about it? So we have politicized counterterrorism in Nigeria. And it's a very big problem. Yeah. You know, counterterrorism is not something you joke with. And I usually give this example about myself. You know, we were in the 1990s, we were in a peacekeeping and conflict resolution training in the Middle East. You know, I was training with the military, working with where they were training us generally. So, and we were moving from one Arab country to the other. And we moved from Jordan, Amman, Jordan. We moved from there to Israel, and we entered Israel by road. Now, when we were leaving Jordan, they gave me the visa to Israel from Jordan. They gave me the form to fill. And in the form, they asked me, what is your father's name? I said, Albert. They asked several questions. My grandfather's name is Ogunkeye, but I rejected Ogunkeye from childhood. But the questions they were asking me forced me to put those names down. Your mother, who is your mother? What is the name? So, because Israelis have very, very complex security system, then they gave me the visa. So, we entered Israel by road. So when we entered Israel, and this is a UN mission, it's not ordinary visit, and consisting of about 20-something other people, senior military people. So they now asked me these questions, and what's this? I said, Albert. What was this, Albert? They were trying to I didn't know that they would check all those names. I kept insisting on Albert, which I feel comfortable with. One of them just came out, brought handcuff. And it was then I knew that handcuff is cold. They wanted to handcuff me. So they brought the handcuff. They were already doing the first one. Then the head of the mission said, no, you cannot touch anybody in this mission. You cannot. So the man stepped back, he saluted him, and he now told him, this is what we have in the papers that you wired to us from Mama. This is what this man said. I said, no, I didn't even know that you were insisting on this Ogunkeye and the rest of them. So I explained, and they allowed me to go. You see, when you are dealing with terrorism, even if it is your father, you deal with the person. Here, on the grounds of ethnicity, we say don't touch the person. On the ground of religion, you say don't touch the person. So, the person who is causing the problem is a Yoruba man. Say, no, when you mention Yoruba, they say you don't like Yoruba.
So we leave
this is
details,
what is killing Nigeria.
We leave the details out based on ethnicity,
Prof.
based on religion. Victor.
Prof, at what point? Because she's mentioned something.
Yes.
And you've corroborated with what you've described.
Yes.
At what point are we going to leave out, all these promises? Are we going to wait to see the
Our
real
leaders are
outcomes?
not altruistic. This is my argument.
What
You
do we
talking about
need?
the leaders. What about the people?
No, it is counter-terrorism is not security. You see, security is not what ordinary person will solve. If there is armed robbery in your state, it is not you, an individual, that will go and solve the problem. You need intervention of the state. If you, an individual, put it on your head, then you become a go. If you, as an individual, put it on your head, you become Una and Dikano. Now, it is the state. When the state is not there, then the system
Can
is...
we indirectly do something?
Yes.
As a people, can the people, because now it's the people who are suffering this.
Apart from even the people, suffering. When I was talking about the people initially, I was referring to citizens who are living in the midst of these terrorists.
Yes.
Who are giving them information. Who are those? We've had incidents. We've had people come out to say, our people are the ones providing food
And
for
they're
them.
thriving on an economy.
Going on market runs for them.
Yes.
So how do we begin to reorientate the people and let them understand these people are doing more harm to us than good?
Okay. We did a study in one of the Sahelian countries. I saw Nigerians there. Now, the question we were trying to ask on that project is, why do people pay taxes to terrorists? The whole of the North, people pay taxes to them. They pay protection taxes, they pay harvest tax, they pay whatever tax. Now, we met these people outside Nigeria and we asked them. They tell you that the state is not protecting us. So, when the state is not protecting us, these people will come, attack us, kill us, take away everything that we have. But later, these people came and said, if so amount of tax could be paid, your family is protected, your farm is protected, and they said, look, they are faithful. So it is a rational economic decision. Many of these people who are providing food to the terrorists, they are business people, their businesses have been ruined, and to them it's business. Because we are told in Maduguri, a bread that should go for 1,000 naira, if you're a businessman selling it to terrorists, they can buy it for as much as 2,000 naira. Now, without doing that business, there is nothing. Go to the IDP camps in Maduguri, you find people there not doing anything, eating, So people are looking for survivor. You see, when the state collapses, people create opportunities for themselves. And this is what we call war economy. So war economy is not to be understood in the simplistic way in which we might want to see, to say, those providing information, they may not be providing information for nothing. They may not be providing information because that is the best thing to do. But the conditions under which they live force them to do some of these things. So you need an academic analysis of these things to be able to solve the problem, not this just general outlook to say they are supporting. The question is, why are they supporting? Do they have any alternative to not supporting?
All right, Prof. I want us to look at the issue of the influx now of these terrorists, based on your analysis earlier, talking about foreign collaborations. It's not just, it's a network.
It's a network.
A chain. Let's look at our borders. We know there are countries in Nigeria where we do not even have a physical demarcation, a physical line of demarcation, you know, saying this is Nigeria, this is Chad,
Yes.
this is Nigeria, this is Benin Republic, you know, we go in and out, no one regulating those coming in, going out,
Yes.
you know, whatever it is you're bringing in. What is supposed to be the role of the immigration system in terms of border checks in Nigeria?
Well, the role of immigration is actually to check those coming in and going out. But we know generally that our security systems, whether you are talking about immigration or customs, is a little bit corrupted, you know, so you cannot actually say you want to rely 100% on these people to be able to prevent people from coming in or people from going out. But we have a number of PhDs that have been done on our border security. When you go to all our borders, you just find, you know, a piece of, 2 pieces of wood planted left and right. They will just put one rope. When you are passing, they will leave the rope like this. They will. So we really don't have what would be called a very good border system across the, very good border system across it. I've visited a number of international borders, and I know, well, let me not use that of Israel. That of Israel is very, very sound. When you are passing, when you are crossing the borders, apart from all the niceties of border control and so on, as your vehicle is passing, you have sensors. You have sensors. It's like it's scanning the road you are passing. Under, beside, and on top is censoring your vehicle. So as you pass, they see everything that is in your vehicle. As you pass and pass as an individual, scanners, you know, will show everything in your. But that is a border that is standard. But the kind of borders we have here, we did a number of projects, you know, at some of our borders. You know, it's very funny. You see women who are carrying bags of rice and, you know, they put it like baby and they will just pass because they know them. And then when you say a bag of rice, many things could be in the bag of rice. Many of these tokumbo cars that we buy here, they stop them with all kinds of things, weapons and so on. They pass because that is the only way by which you can make profit when you sell the car and so. So our borders are very, very porous, and those managing our borders, immigration and whatever, they have their own issues. But we had situations where immigrations tried to manage those coming in, and they were killed. So we have several cases of immigration officers who were killed in the process of trying to use force to prevent people from. So it's a very complex.
So how can that be prevented, and how can we work more on our borders?
Well, how to work more on our borders and prevent it? Let me give you an example.
Yes.
When we had the national conference, the 2014 national conference, I was in the subcommittee on immigration and related matters. And we brought the head of immigrations. And we asked him this question that you are asking me, to say, okay, can you say clearly that, how are you managing the borders? Why are these foreign fighters coming in? And he identified about, I think, over 300 illegal routes that these people could follow to Nigeria. And these illegal routes, you will recall, were the ones that General Musa was saying we should fence. I don't want to go to that. But this man said we have this number of illegal routes. And then we asked him, now, are the military people fighting across the borders aware of this number? Say no.
So how do they fight?
So why? The question is, to what extent are you sharing information with them? We realized that they knew, and I think they still know, how these people were coming in. But the military people were not talking to them. which is what we call problem of interagency
Is that also
collaboration.
not putting the lives
and
of the troops at risk?
at risk. So that is what we call interagency collaboration and coordination, which was lacking and which I think is still lacking. So we asked the man, he said, okay, good. You are not giving the military people this information. And he said the military people, when they are operating, don't talk to them. They don't talk, so there was no conversation. So if there was no conversation, you cannot, as an immigration person, go out to tell military people, this is what you should do. No, because the commanders themselves will not listen to you. So we now said, okay, now to solve these problems, we gave two proposals. We said, the first proposal we're putting to you is probably for you in the immigration to have a unit that has the capacity for military operations, full combat operations. That is to say, you remain in immigration, but you'll be able to fight like soldiers. So when these people want to come in by force, you will fight them, which was the model we used for producing the mobile police in the past, the so-called kill and go in the past. We had a mobile police formation in the past, which we call kill and go. They are military police, but capacity to fight like soldiers. But the military killed that unit because they thought they could stop coup making. Now, we'll put that to him. The second option we put to him is to say, okay, can we establish a unit in the army with all this knowledge that you have, and that will be able to fight these people at this thing? So we asked him to pick one. He now picked, we want that group, we want that formation in the immigrations. Since the national conference, I don't know what happened, whether they actually established that group in the immigration. So that is the way. Now, in the Arab world, what I discovered is that in the Arab world, whether you are police, you are military, you are whatever, you train together. So when you train together, when there are problems, you can be deployed anywhere, and then you'll be able to fight. It's just like what we do in NDA. In NDA, the Army, Air Force, and Navy, they train together. And therefore, they have a very good understanding of what the other person is doing. So when people say we need to rejig our security architecture, they talk and talk, but they end up doing nothing. And I don't think they even understand. To me, I'm sorry. I'm not saying the country is not informed. But when they talk and we sit back to see what will happen, we do not see things that will correlate with what they say they want to do.
But based on what you've said so far, Prof, the meetings you've attended, the conferences,
yes,
and then we have heads of some of these organized commissions attending and speaking. And it feels like, yes, they know where the problem is. They know what to do. Why is execution difficult?
Execution is difficult because we have politicized security management. That's the problem Nigeria is having. We have one of the best trained security people in this country. When our police, as bad as we paint them here, when they go abroad on peacekeeping missions, they come back with medals. Our soldiers, they are one of the best in the world. When I was first invited by AFRICOM is the military unit, established by America to fight in Africa. They invited me to their headquarters in Stuttgart, Germany. When I got there, the first thing they told me is that Nigerian Army is one of the best in the world when it comes to land warfare. I read a script where a British assessor also said the same thing, that the Nigerian Army, one of the best in the world. And they said they are the best in the world because all that the Nigerian Army person understands is last order. That if you give a military man, an army of person, an instruction, he goes out to obey that thing. But in the Western world, people will still want to differentiate between lawful order and unlawful order. In Nigeria, people don't ask questions; they execute what you ask them to do. So they said that is what is needed for making an army to be an army. Okay. The Western world has lost it. We still have it, and that is why we are very good.
All right, Prof, now, something happened late last year where the United States came through for us aerially now. You mentioned something. We have troops who are so good.
Very good, well trained.
On ground. But then we have failed to, in my own mindset. I believe that we have failed to utilize that help that came from the United States. When we started this conversation, you said we needed help internationally. We had that in December. We had that. We know the ripple effects of those strikes that did happen. But to me, I believe that we did not combine our efforts to clear out at that moment when they were weakened with those airstrikes. Can we have more of that? Can we do better? Because I'm not seeing our military working with all these things. This morning, we have read reports that they stopped some drone attacks. That's Nigeria's military. But then, how often have we seen ourselves utilize technology to help our soldiers on the ground advance better? We are seeing, and it's a sore sight, it's a gory sight to see men in uniform who have been killed, dismembered, treated like animals, and then their uniforms taken by these bandits or terrorists that we've seen. How can we get better? Because we need to help these men who are representing and protecting us.
Well, you see, let me start from the American intervention that you mentioned. To me, I don't think that is the kind of international support we need. What happened in Sokoto was a Trump intervention. Trump decided to carry out that singular attack.
Was it without the knowledge of our presidency? Was it without the knowledge of our presidency?
Well, we thought it was not with the knowledge of our presidency, but later
they came out to say
we are aware of it.
Something should have
He
followed.
said so they are aware of it. You are aware of an attack on just one town, and when you draw the map of crisis in Nigeria, Sokoto is in the south, is in the northwest. The problem in the northwest is basically that of banditry. Yes, you have Lakurawa there, but Lakurawa is not a commanding organization. It's not as important as you have in the northeast. So what Trump came to do was to plant a seed that will grow in future, and then we begin to see what it's all about. To me, I don't think it's the kind of international support we need. The kind of international support that I'm talking about is for us to have a situation where intelligence will be collected about all the troubled spots in Nigeria, most especially in the north. The troubled spots in the northwest, north central, northeast. You map them, you know where the problems are, you assess the number of fighters at different areas, you decide what areas you really want to have your operations for. You identify your center of gravity, which is the most important place. You know, center of gravity is saying you have problems in different places, but if you knock this one out, it will help to dissolve a few others. And then these people will come, they will operate, do whatever they want to do to help us, and then these fighters will either be killed or they will run in different directions and you have peace. But this thing to me is not the kind of this thing that I'm talking about. Now, it is humiliating. It is humiliating to see the kind of picture we are witnessing now. What Boko Haram is doing now, Boko Haram and ISWAP, I must confess, I don't know which is actually calling the shots now in the northeast, because there is the Boko Haram, the leftover of the Shekau group, and then ISWAP, which is controlled from the Middle East. We don't know which one of them is. I understand ISWAP is very powerful, but Boko Haram too is also doing this thing. What they do now is they delight in killing our soldiers. Killing our soldiers will be a signature of ISWAP, because ISWAP is more interested in killing soldiers than killing civilians. But Boko Haram, the leftover of Shekau, they're doing indiscriminate attacks and so on. Now, it's very, very disgraceful, because each time I read it in the dailies that so number of our soldiers have been killed, so number have been killed, we are losing our respect internationally. Because the moment that your protectors, those who are supposed to be protecting you, The moment they are worsted, they are treated the way we are being treated here. International members of the international community will lose confidence in your economy. They will lose confidence in your, several people will just want to stay off. Because if they want to come in, they'll be depending on these people you are killing now for their own protection. So if these people don't have protection, then you begin to ask yourself,
All right.
probably this is not the kind of society we should associate with.
Prof, it's time to go, but before we let you go, we talked about proactive measures that should be taken, by our government at this point. You also mentioned that, Zulu, and I'm going to also talk about other state governors now, are helpless. There's really little to nothing they can do in the fight against this insurgency in their states. But how bad can it get if we do not get the foreign collaboration we so need in Nigeria?
It will definitely get worse. It will definitely get worse. Because when we started in 2009, we started with Boko Haram crisis at a very low scale. And then Boko Haram spread to our border communities, Cameroon, whatever. And now, Boko Haram, that is to say terrorism, has marched now with banditry. And these bandits now, they started from Sokoto, the Lakurawa started from Sokoto, they have moved to Niger State, they have moved to Kwara State, I understand they are now in Oyo State. Now, that is one axis. Another axis of their movement is they moved from the northeast, they came to Kogi, most especially the Ibira part, they came to Owo. That is another route to the southern coast of the Niger Delta and so on. These people are moving. They are moving. The international community is knowing that their ultimate goal is to get to the coastal states of West Africa. In our own case, they have already reached Oyo State, and I'm sure they are already active in Ogun State, whether we like it or not. Now, they have moved to Owo. I understand they are moving, So we are not, it's like these people are moving and we are not doing enough to stop their movement. Right. So we should not be simplistic in the understanding of the problem. Okay. We have a very complex, serious problem to solve. Let our leaders stop getting very lazy. All right. In the analysis of the problems.
Prof, we will say you've been doing a very good job, as regards to providing theoretical solutions to our leaders. We just hope, those recommendations are being taken as you're offering it to them. Thank you so much, Prof. It's indeed been a wonderful conversation, talking about the insecurity challenges we've been having in Nigeria, and of course, looking at the Maiduguri explosion that happened in 3 different parts of the state earlier this week, and of course, the president's reaction and every other conversation we needed to have about the insecurity challenge. Thank you so much. We've been talking to Professor Olawale Albert, a security scholar of note.
Thank you so much, bro. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. Please stay with us. It's time for not really global updates, but of course, we want to give you an update of the president's visit to the United Kingdom. And of course, Prince Charles's the third reaction, his note, and his welcome address to the president. Please stay with us.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, and distinguished First Lady, Ekabo Shdani. My wife and I are delighted to welcome you to Windsor Castle here on this occasion, and we are most grateful to you for travelling during this holy month, which I acknowledge is no small sacrifice, and so it is my particular pleasure to wish you, Mr. President, peace, blessings, and an abundance of joy. And Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak.
During my most recent visit to Nigeria in 2018, when I was fortunate enough to be able to spend some time with your highly respected traditional leaders, the Sultan of Sokoto, the Uni of Ife, Unicho Wari, and the Emir of Kano, it was self-evident that while the warmth of the Nigerian welcome remains constant, the country itself is transforming at a remarkable pace. Nigeria hasn't merely changed, it has arrived. Yours is now a nation of over 230 million people, half of whom are under 18, with the energy, ingenuity, ambition, and resolve to address the great challenges of our age. We in the United Kingdom are blessed that so many people of Nigerian heritage, having chosen Britain as their home, are now at the heart of British life through excelling at the highest levels of business, technology, academia, law, science, sport, literature and the arts, and public service. I have met so many of these quiet heroes in our schools, businesses, National Health Service, and universities, including countless young people who have flourished through the work of my King's Trust over the last 50 years. Only last week, I was delighted to host a rather lively group of them for a jollof and tea party at St. James's Palace. I was firmly assured that the jollof was only the best, Nigerian of course. Or perhaps it was Ghanaian or Senegalese. Diplomatically, I cannot remember. But who could have imagined that when I first visited Nigeria 36 years ago today, so many of those I might have met would have gone on to have such an impact in the United Kingdom. From Afro beats filling our concert halls and Nollywood captivating our screens, to stars competing in our Premier League and adjudicating our highest courts. So much of Britain's culture is, in truth, profoundly enriched by Nigeria. Whether they are Nigerians who've chosen Britain as their adopted place to invest, trade, or study, or Britons who cherish their personal connection to Nigeria, they all represent a living bridge of over 500,000 people who connect our nations, Mr. President, and help make our cultures richer, our shared security stronger, and our economies more prosperous. We are proud that so many great examples of this living bridge join us here this evening. As the connections between our nations deepen every day, so too do the economic ties. Your visit has provided the opportunity to celebrate the fact that Nigeria is investing in Britain's future as much as Britain is investing in Nigeria's. Leading Nigerian banks have chosen the City of London as a global base. Examples of the best Nigerian companies have listed on London Stock Exchange, and UK Export Finance is supporting investment in Nigeria's ports. In education, British schools and universities are opening their doors in Nigeria, and British and Nigerian technology companies are forming ever closer partnerships. I was pleased to see that visitors from Nigeria spent £178 million in Britain in 2024, and 251,000 people from Britain travelled to Nigeria and spent just as much in return. And in January of this year, Nigeria became the United Kingdom's biggest export market in Africa. And whilst I hear that in Nigeria, the phrase "made in UK" has always symbolized the highest quality, it evidently now has a distinctively Nigerian flavor. The friendship between our two countries, Mr. President, is a partnership of equals that has brought us both enormous benefits. It has been described to me as a deeply spiritual connection beyond churches and mosques, a deep bond through which we have strengthened our shared security, ensured our economies are more prosperous, and empowered each other to believe in a more hopeful future. The many dynamic connections between our two nations have deep roots, and yet I do not pretend that those roots are without a shadow. There are chapters in our shared history that I know have left some painful marks. I do not seek to offer words that dissolve the past, for no words can. But I do believe, as I know you believe, Mr. President, that history is not merely a record of what was done to us. It is a lesson in how we go forward together to continue building a future rooted in hope and growth for all, and worthy of those who bore the pains of the past. This afternoon, in another part of the castle, Mr. President, you and I witnessed one such example of how we are learning from one another when we met leaders of the British Christian and Muslim communities. The gathering was a deeply meaningful symbol of what Nigeria has long shown, that people of different faiths can, do, and must live alongside one another in peace, in harmony, and in shared purpose. It was also a timely reminder of the importance of standing with you and in us strengthening your quick reaction forces or in providing food, nutrition, and protection services in northern Nigeria when challenges disturb the age-old balance between these communities. Your nation, Mr. President, is an economic powerhouse, a cultural force, and an influential diplomatic voice from a continent that is playing an increasingly important role in the world. In a vastly interconnected global environment, one that is changing at unimaginable speed, that leadership brings responsibility and opportunity. I heed the Yoruba wisdom, and forgive me if I say it in English, that rain does not fall on one roof alone. And as you observed so astutely before the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa in 2024, if we didn't have this global alliance of 56 member states and a combined GDP forecast soon to surpass $20 trillion, there would be a need to create one. I believe firmly that when rain clouds gather, we can tighten the grip of friendship between us, and in so doing, reinforce the central role of the Commonwealth in our shared future. As the world changes, these are lessons we must heed now more than ever. As the Hausa saying goes, When the music changes, so does the dance.
Yes.
We can learn from Nigeria and the best of the UK and Nigeria's partnership and harness the advantage that comes from our common languages, our similar legal systems, and the web of cultural ties and spiritual connections that provide such deep trust between us, and look to the future and learn new dance steps together. Mr. President, you have spoken in particular of the importance of expanding intra-Commonwealth trade by creating shared standards, regulatory and digital alignment, and removing barriers that deter investment. As the UK and Nigeria's enhanced trade and investment partnership is just such an example, so that our economies can grow in harmony with nature and create the millions of jobs our citizens need. So as we look towards CHOGM this year, I hope, far from being past its time, we can demonstrate that the Commonwealth's time has come, as you so rightly said. In achieving that, my wife and I will gain strength from seeing Nigeria take her rightful place at the heart of the Commonwealth, and to standing alongside you as a friend who believes the future is best when built together. As the Igbos say, knowledge is never complete, two heads are better than one. So as I close, Mr. President, in anticipation of Eid al-Fitr in Nigeria and across the world, I can only wish you and the millions of Muslims in our countries Eid Mubarak. And in doing so, let me propose a toast to the President and people of Nigeria. Niger no day carry last.
King Charles III, Queen Camilla, Prince William, the Prince of Wales and Duke of Cornwall, and Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This is not Nigeria, no, they carry last. It is a very splendid moment. It is with the profound honor to stand before you today, representing the people of Nigeria as we reaffirm the enduring bonds of friendship, history, and shared purpose that have united our two nations for several centuries. Allow me first to express my sincere appreciation to Your Majesty and to Her Majesty, the Queen, for the warmth and generosity extended to me, my wife, Oluremi, and the Nigerian delegation. As the first Nigerian leader to speak here at Windsor Castle, which has served the British crown for nearly a millennium, it is particularly historic. Windsor has stood as a symbol of continuity, witnessing the steady evolution of institutions that have shaped governance, culture, and public life, not only in Britain, but far beyond these shores. Nigeria and United Kingdom have shared more than just history. Our two nations share a vision of progress and resilience. Today, we continue our journey, committed to building a future rooted in partnership, mutual respect, and common values. Standing here in Windsor Castle, one cannot but help reflect on British impact on modern democratic governance worldwide. We remember the Magna Carta of 1215, which laid the early foundation for the rule of law and the development of parliamentary democracy, establishing enduring ideals around liberty, accountable government, and civic responsibilities. Great Britain thinkers and writers such as Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Edmund Burke helped to propagate those democratic ideals. This influence continues to resonate till this date. The literary genius of William Shakespeare and other writers such as Charles Dickens has enriched and shaped the English language spoken by over 1.7 billion people worldwide. In Nigeria, element of this tradition continues to inform the institutional foundation of our own republic. Our court draws upon legal tradition rooted in English common law. Our parliamentary institution reflects constitutional practices that evolved here over centuries. Our civil service structure have also drawn upon administrative models developed in Britain and adapted to Nigeria's own national context. While institutions matters greatly, Your Majesty, our people remains the strongest bridge between our two countries. The Nigerian community in United Kingdom has become one of the most dynamic diaspora communities worldwide. Nigerians continue to contribute enormously to the vitality both here in England and in Nigeria. Within the National Health Service, Nigerian doctors and nurses play an indispensable role in delivering healthcare. Nigerian trained doctors are among the largest group of international medical professionals serving the NHS. In sport, rugby players such as Mario Toje, footballers including Bukayo Saka, Eberechi Eze, and champion boxer Anthony Joshua illustrate the remarkable human connection that links Nigeria and the United Kingdom. Our partnership is further strengthened through the Commonwealth of Nations, which connects 56 countries under Your Majesty's leadership. Thank you very much for all you've been doing for us. We discussed at length earlier on today the essence of bringing over 2.7 billion people together and removing trade barriers. As one of the largest nations within the Commonwealth, Nigeria looks forward to contributing constructively to the continued growth and vitality of this global community. However, our West African region faces complex terrorism challenges with roots in Sahel. Nigeria comes with an enormous responsibility to help safeguard regional stability. In confronting these threats, partnership with the United Kingdom remains essential, and I look forward to meeting with Prime Minister Keir Starmer tomorrow. Despite these challenges, Nigeria approaches the future with hope and confidence. We are a nation of diverse and vibrant people, of young people dreaming big, of entrepreneurs with a global outlook, and a hopeful people determined to realize their full potential, as I promised. Your Majesty, I am confident that the friendship between Nigeria and United Kingdom will continue to grow stronger and better beyond jollof rice. Finally, Your Majesty, I want to express Nigeria's deep gratitude to the great nation, this great nation, for the refuge and support extended during the dark years of military dictatorship. Like many Nigerians involved in pro-democracy struggle, I find safety here, and I recall that my residence was placed under Metropolitan Police surveillance for protection following threats from agents of the junta. I thank you very much once again. That solidarity remains etched in our collective memory, and it is deeply humbling for me to stand here before you, Your Majesty, today as the President of Democratic Nigeria. On behalf of the government and the good people of Nigeria, I thank Your Majesty, Her Majesty the Queen, Prince William and Catherine, and Princess of Wales, other members of royal family, and the people of the United Kingdom for their long-standing friendship. Nigeria will not carry last. Your Majesty, Your Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, in the spirit of that friendship and our shared destiny, I invite you all to raise a glass with me. To the special bond and United Kingdom, and to the bright future that we shall build together. God bless His Majesty, the King. God bless Nigeria. God bless United Kingdom. And thank you very much.